Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Laura Hodgkiss and I'm the Event and Training Team Leader here at Staffordshire Chamber of Commerce. I'm delighted to see you all here today for today's event with Kate from Criminology in the digital world, So we're really excited to see her here today and do this presentation. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. As you can see, we can see all your cameras. I noticed a couple of you have got your cameras off today, which is absolutely fine as well. We will be obviously having a Q&A section at the end, and any feedback, etc., or any comments that you want to make as well. You might have your own experiences from your business as well that you might want to be involved in. So Kate, it's over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Laura. Afternoon, everyone. Hopefully everyone is okay today. Thank you for joining us on this virtual platform. It seems to be the world in which we are currently living. So today's topic is probably quite topical. Well, it's topical to all of us, isn't it, at the moment? I'm going to go into screen share, I think, first of all, and we'll get some slides up just to make sure that's all working okay. Right. Okay, so if anybody can't see the slideshow, please give a shout up, unmute yourself and just shout up, but hopefully you'll all see the slide on the screen for you. Okay, so I'm Kate Dempsey. I am Staffordshire Police's Cyber Protect Officer. A little bit of history on myself. I've been working now for Staffordshire Police for 20 years this year, 16 years of those spent as a frontline scenes of crime officer, so very different area of business, but I've been to all sorts of crime types in my career, everything from burglaries, house burglaries, commercial burglaries, you know, serious organised crime, murder and everything in between. So I've seen all sorts of crime types. The latter years spent in that role, we all found ourselves having to upskill essentially, and that was because the world was changing with regard to technology. Lots more digital devices required for examination, you know, from people that come into custody, victim phones and all that, and part of our role changed to be able to examine digital devices, so we had to change our skill sets. The last 4 years I've been working in crime prevention, and specifically in the areas of business fraud and cybercrime. Very different area of policing in the sense that it's all about trying to get ahead of criminality and sort of try and help people to prevent it happening. When it comes to cybercrime and online fraud, it's certainly an area whereby with a little bit of intervention, awareness and education, we can all help ourselves become better protected. The last 2 years I've been dedicated to Cybercrime Protect, and that is because the growth of criminality in this area. You know, we're currently finding that it seems to be the way that criminality is going. So we'll have a look at the reasons why. So first slide I use this in most of my presentations really, and it's because it's really quite impactful. It's a Hollywood film. The picture there on the screen, for those of you that will recognise and have seen this film, it's from Skyfall, and the quote at the bottom from Q to Bond: "I can do more damage on my laptop sitting in my pyjamas before my first cup of Earl Grey than you can do a year in the field." It's a Hollywood movie. Is it true? Yes, it is. This is the world that we live in today, and it's absolutely right what he's saying there. And this is, you know, the option that criminals are taking to take our money and our information. So just sort of where are we then with cybercrime today? Just some statistics there really on the screen, because no presentation would be would sort of be complete without statistics, but just really to bring you up to speed on this. So at the top there, 5.9 million cyber and fraud offences last year, essentially. What that actually means is of all crime that's reported, over half is online fraud and cybercrime. Okay, so that's where we are today. That's a huge shift in the last sort of 5 years. And basically that equates to 1 in 10 of us becoming victim of a cybercrime or online fraud. When it comes to fraud today, over 75% of fraud has an online element to it. Business-wise, just some, quite recent statistics there, but they haven't really changed in the last 3 years. So we've got 46% of businesses, so this is your smaller businesses, had a breach of some sort. Back in 2017, that was 43%, so it's actually increased a little bit. And we're rising to 75% of larger businesses, which is, it's quite a lot. We find when it comes to business cybercrime, not a lot of businesses report to law enforcement. It tends to be to internet providers. It's, we need to get recovery, we need to get back up and running because obviously of the impact on the business, but businesses don't always inform law enforcement. Increased, why have we got this problem? I think it's, it's the explosion of the internet. We've all seen that in the last 5 years, but incredibly so since March last year. All our business has shifted online. For sort of smaller businesses have had to sort of look at online platforms to do business in order to continue. And with that shift, there, has the attention and thought been paid to cybersecurity because it's had to happen quickly. But we also see that at home, don't we? With our families communicating, and the fact that we're delivering this present today, on this platform, it just goes to show that we are all turning our attention to using technology. Recent, bang up to date figures from Action Fraud since March last year, because of this increased usage and the Internet of Things, which is, for anybody that hasn't heard that term before, it's a term you'll hear in cybersecurity. And the Internet of Things is basically, it's digital devices, and it relates to anything that can be connected to the internet. If it can connect to the internet, essentially it can be hacked. So when we're talking about tech devices, nowadays we're looking at things in the home. Security cameras, connected kettles. I mean, why people would want a connected kettle, I don't know, but these things are available. But if they can connect to the internet, they can be compromised. So it's all about us understanding that and making sure that we take as many steps as we can to protect our businesses and our homes. £34.5 million has been stolen, and that's what we know since March last year. So it's a huge amount of money. To put that into some kind of perspective, locally in Staffordshire, we know that we're losing in excess of £16 million a year to cybercrime and online fraud. But the figures that we get from the National Fraud Intelligence Bureau, we know we only get about a fifth of cybercrime and fraud reported to us. So when we think a fifth of, if 16 million is a fifth, we've got quite a significant problem, which is why I'm here today to hopefully encourage everybody to look at the cybersecurity and how we can, secure our businesses and our homes better. So the majority of cybercrime and online fraud can be prevented with protecting intervention, so protect prevention. And when it comes to cyber criminality, prevention is better than cure. Law enforcement, we investigate cybercrime, but because of the nature of this criminality, it can be very difficult to deal with from our perspective. So we need everybody to pull together to uniformly fight the attack against with cybercrime. So just put this on screen now we're talking about digital devices and the Internet of Things. On screen there, you'll see that within this, we call it a digital crime scene, and this is to help with our officers when they're looking at technology as how we can understand what may have happened in a crime scene and look at things that maybe will provide evidence. So all these devices that you see there, again, if they can connect to the internet, they can be compromised. So that if we've got them in our homes, you'll see there is smart TV, we've got the Wi-Fi, tablets, a connected telephone, we've got the heating system there, if you can see the little nest on the wall, and all things like that. If they're all connected to your router, and your router becomes, you know, they can be a doorway into your router if they have vulnerabilities on them. So what we can get evidence of all these things in a crime scene, but if we can get evidence of all those things, essentially a cyber criminal can also use them to get into our lives. So who's at risk then? This is problem analysis triangle, which we use in policing. And it's a bit like a fire triangle, so a bit of fire theory here for you. To make to create a fire, we need three things. We need fuel, heat, and oxygen. And the theory behind that is if you take one of those things away, a fire can't happen. Our crime triangle is very similar. We have a victim, location, and an offender. So when it comes to cybercrime, we look at the three things, how we can, what impact can we have to tackle each of these areas, because what we want to do is to prevent a crime from happening. When it comes to cybercrime, if we look at the offender on the right there, they can be anyone, any age, anywhere in the world. Okay, so from an individual operating singularly to serious organised crime groups who operate globally, and they can, this global network that they have to commit these crimes. So as I said earlier, yes, there's investigative opportunities there and we will take them where we can, but sometimes it can be very difficult, especially if we don't have collaboration with a country to pursue an investigation. Sometimes investigations stop at borders. So that's the difficulties we face. When it comes to the location in cybercrime, think about that as your tech, your devices, networks, operating systems, and things like that. Certainly in the home environment, we can all do something about that. Those of you that have small businesses, medium businesses, you may have tech providers that help you with your network and things like that. So we have some control over that, a little bit more control. If we work in big organisations like I do, it's our IT experts that will look after that security for us. The victim, however, is something that we can all do. We can all try and protect ourselves from becoming victims of cybercrime. And who can be a victim? Who's at risk? It says at the top there, essentially anybody can. And I would include myself in that. We can all be at risk from cybercrime, even those who don't have a computer. So when it comes to what can we do, we're looking really at how we can help the victim to stop us being affected in the first place, and also look at our location. How can we secure our networks and our devices? So motivators, what motivates somebody to commit cybercrime and online fraud? Essentially, there's a few there. It's financial is, of course, a huge motivator. And usually, if I ask this in a face-to-face environment, what motivates somebody to commit cybercrime? Finance is usually the first one that people say. And that's absolutely right. And that can be for a variety of ways: theft, fraud, blackmail, and things like that. But also, what other reasons? It's not just about money. It can be about fame, the kudos, the challenge when it comes to youngsters and they're experimenting with, hacking into systems and utilising their skills. It's a challenge. And if they succeed, they want to push the boundaries. And sometimes with our youngsters, it's all about educating them as to what is right and what is wrong and trying to guide them to use those skills in a positive way. And you can see there's just a few others: control, hacktivism, so for a cause, and that can be things like defacing websites. Business, competitive game in business, wanting to sort of cause competitors an issue, or you look at, how is their business going, design and things like that. And political estate, there's all sorts of reasons. It's not just about money. When I'm talking to businesses and organisations, it's probably always important to remember that an offender, a cyber criminal, can be not just external threat, it can also be an internal threat. So when we're thinking about a disgruntled employee, you know, if they're a little bit techie, they could cause a larger organisation some problems if they wanted to. So we need to be aware of that. We need to just be aware of all of these things. So what are criminals after? You know, traditional crime, when we're looking at burglaries and things like that, we talk about physical assets, vehicles, money, jewellery, all these things. I mean, 10 years ago when I was going to crime scenes in companies, it would be petty cash. It would be the physical computers at the time and things like that. But criminals nowadays can make more money out of assets. And we're talking about data, assets, information. And as businesses now, we really need to be protecting those things. One, for your business, number one, but two, for your customers, you know, and your clients. It's their information is valuable to a cyber criminal, and that can be company emails, contacts, databases, all sorts of information. There's, you know, many people on today, and you have a think about the sort of information that you might have in your company that might be of use to criminals. When we're talking about data breaches, you know, a criminal is able to profit from a whole manner of personal sensitive information. So we need to protect that as best we can, to protect not only us and our businesses, but also our customers, which is our community. So there's three things at the bottom that criminals want: access into systems, money, and information or data. So why do we need to worry about a breach? Obviously, you know, companies are breached, we hear about it on the news, some people may have been affected. It can have implications for the business. You know, we've got GDPR. If we don't report a breach within 72 hours, we can be at risk of being fined as a result of that. But also it is the knock-on effect that this has. You know, what can happen to stolen data? On the screen there, you can see, you know, companies hacked, a breach is confirmed, and say if personal data has been stolen, so client information, it can get sold on to criminals, usually by way of the dark web. And then that data can be used to commit further criminal activity, something we call cyber-enabled fraud, where the cyber element is the hack, and then fraud can happen as a result of that. And that might be a criminal having somebody's details and putting a phone call into them, purporting to be from a trusted organisation, such as these calls that people get into their homes where people purport to be from the police, from the bank, from the HMRC. If a fraudster has stolen data that has been obtained via a data breach, it can explain why sometimes people engage with a criminal, because there's an element that they think they are talking to the right individual, because that fraudster knows an element about them, and it could be their name, date of birth, who they bank with. It depends what sensitive information has been stolen. So the impact on an individual can be very emotional, because they can't believe this has happened to them and they fell for this scam, and financial. For a business, it can be financial, emotional, and there's also a potential loss of credibility there. And one of the hacks, which probably most of us are familiar with, would be the TalkTalk hack, which happened a few years ago. But we're finding that that data is still circulating, and those people whose data was stolen as a result of that can still be affected today because of that breach. So there are other ways that criminals can get our information. Obviously, hacking and a data breach is one way. Phishing is another term that some of you might be familiar with. Phishing is an umbrella term, and there are a variety of ways that this can be done. Phishing is essentially, it's obtaining sensitive information by deception, and that can be via a variety of ways. And you'll see on the screen there, we've got emails to the left there. That's what, you know, when you think, I've had a phishing email, that's traditionally what we think of phishing. In the middle, we've got phone calls, voice solicitation, and there's a term called vishing, which is used to describe that. And they are the cyber-enabled phone calls that people get, where people, criminals, purport to be somebody else. And then on the right there, we've got text message, which is, that's called smishing. These are real words, everyone. I haven't made them up. But smishing, or a fraudulent text, is whereby you'll receive a text, and I bet some of you are sitting there going, yes, I've had these. And again, they'll purport to be from a trusted source. The one on screen there purports to be from the bank, and there's usually an ask in these messages. They want you to do something, or they are offering you something. Very, very recently, there's been a Royal Mail one going round. Typically, they're from the bank, DPD, Royal Mail, and things like this. They want you to do something, but what they want you to do is click on the link. By clicking on the link, generally speaking, you'll be taken to a fraudulent website, which looks genuine, but it won't be, and it's there to harvest details. Or in phishing emails, clicking on a link, harvest details, or upload malware to your computer. So just put on screen there, this is just a very, very generic phishing email. This is how it would look on a phone, essentially. And again, you'll see purports to be from a trusted organisation. And just having a glance through that email, I mean, this is a mass sent phishing email. So, you know, one that's sent in its hundreds, really. And there's just a few key things to identify in there. You've got the trusted organisation. You've got a penalty charge. So people think, oh, I'm in trouble. You know, none of us want to be in trouble. So we sort of think, right, we want this to go away as quickly as we can. Interestingly, here it's just asking for quite a reasonable amount of money. It's not a lot. And there's a reason for that. As we work our way down, there's the threat. So if we don't respond, they're going to increase that to in excess of £50. So now our subconscious is going, I'm in trouble. I need it to go away as quickly as possible. It's only going to cost me £13.24. I'm just going to pay it. You know, that's how people can respond, because they want it to go away. There's the link. By clicking on this link, we'll be taken to a website where these details, financial details, will be taken. There's also a little interesting one at the bottom. Telephone number provided, but it's unavailable. So again, subconsciously, when you're having a quick read of this, you might go, oh, well, I don't think that was me, but if it was, I want it to go anyway. So I'm just going to pay it. And there's no point me ringing because I'll not get through. This email is just designed to take you to pay £13.24. But if we were to click on this link, it's essentially a lot more than £13.24 that we will be giving away. So that was phishing email example. The next one on screen here, it's vishing, it's voice solicitation, and the tactics here are how a criminal will hack the human. Cybersecurity, for those that have been to any other sort of training or conferences, you'll hear the term social engineering. And again, social engineering is essentially fraud. Fraud is trickery. Social engineering is exactly that. It's just the modern term for it, and a variety of ways of doing it. But, you know, over the phone, again, these phone calls that people get, the community gets them, but also businesses will get one where the criminal will try and convince you to act quickly. There's tactics that they use, such as distraction, rushing. If we're distracted and we're rushed, we're less likely to make a good decision because we're acting quickly. Generally, a fraudster will catch us unaware. We're not expecting fraudulent phone calls. They can use fear authority or familiarity to get a person to act. And this depends on who the target is. If the target is a business, they may target a junior member of staff, details they can get off a company website. And if they very authoritative, it encourages people to engage with the fraudster. If the payoff is high and they are targeting an organisation for money, they will do the homework on the company before an attack is orchestrated. So address people by name, use personal details. As we've seen, that may be working with stolen data that's been stolen as a result of a hack, or using social media details, which is open source and purport to be from a trusted organisation. You know, but what can we do with these things, really? I think it's just a case of being aware of them. And if we get a call that we're not sure about, it's ending that call and checking, confirming and verifying the call to be genuine or not via a trusted source. So a trusted source, an example of that, if we have a phone call from somebody purporting to be the bank saying there's fraudulent activity on our account and we are worried, we would phone the bank in a safe way, ideally using another phone on a trusted number. And a trusted number for the bank, for example, can be found on the back of all of our debit cards. The reason we would use another phone is because criminal can hold the line open for a short period of time. So it's always best where we can to use another phone, or if we haven't got another phone, speak to somebody we know first. Okay, so this is fraudulent text message. This is the one on the left there is an informative message that we might get from a bank. There's no ask in there. You'll just see when you have a little read through that, it's not asking you to do anything, it's information only. On the right, you'll see there's a link. It's telling you your account's been suspended due to suspicious activity, and it's wanting you, it's guiding you on that link. Usually a threat in there, like in this case, it's saying your account's been suspended, which none of us want. So they're guiding you to click that link. That's what the criminals want you to do. We use the Take 5 campaign in Staffordshire, and the reason for that is because it's all about taking 5 minutes. When you get an email, a call or a text message, what is it? What is being asked of me, or what is being asked from me or offered to me? Certainly post-pandemic last year, in March, April, May time, when businesses were sort of facing really, really difficult times, people furlough and things like that, and businesses were looking at what support they could get from the government. We saw a spike in phishing emails offering certain things for businesses, and of course obviously a lot of them were fake, unfortunately. But when people are are needing something and we're looking for answers, we're more going to be tempted to click on a link that might not be genuine. So Take 5, it's all about stop, challenge, the message, and also our response to it to protect our information and our money. Reporting, always try and get people to report cybercrime and fraud. And sometimes not everybody understands that it can be useful. Action Fraud has a 24-hour support for any business suffering a live cyber attack. So it's always worth having that up your sleeve, really, and having that knowledge. They work closely with the National Cybersecurity Centre, and they can help people that are suffering a live cyber attack. And if ever you need to use that service, it's the phone number that you would ring. And I think it's option 9 that you would press, which comes on quite quickly. You don't have to wait from 1 to 9 and so on. It comes quite quickly. So that's always worth knowing. But the best way of reporting is via their online portal. It's a lot more simpler process. They have improved it certainly over the last 12 months. When it comes to what I would say, if anybody's out there going, yes, this has happened to me, or somebody that you know, please encourage them to report, because people like myself that work in Protect, we offer businesses and individuals advice if it has happened to them, to help them from it happening again, so sort of to mitigate the future risk. With regard to phishing emails, you know, we get them all the time. This service was launched by the National Cyber Security Centre last year, and it's called the Suspicious Email Reporting Service. And now you can forward any phishing email or any suspicious email that you suspect to be fraudulent to this service. And the address there you'll see on screen, it's report@phishing.gov.uk. Same for the text messages. So if you're thinking, yes, I've had some of those, you know, dodgy text messages, you can forward them as well to 7726, and that's a free service for all UK mobile phone providers. Sometimes when you forward a text message, you'll get a message back from your phone provider asking you to provide the number that you received it from, if there is one. But essentially, by sending your phishing emails and your text messages to this service, you, just by doing that, are helping to remove criminality from the internet. You know, this is happening now at national law enforcement level. They are removing the criminal activity where they can. And you'll see on the bottom of this slide, our latest statistics, as of the 28th of February 2021, the number of reports received stands at more than 5 million, with the removal of more than 36,000 scams and 71,000 fake URLs. And for every scam that's removed, that's one less individual that will be a victim to that scam. So that is incredible work that they're doing. And this service is less than a year old at the moment. So, you know, it's a sort of, is anything happening with cybercrime and fraud? Yes, it is. But it takes all of us in this sort of national effort to help, you know, reduce it. So that's what you can do by helping us, essentially. So resources, what support is there, you know, out there for you, you know, for businesses, for individuals? Well, the National Cyber Security Centre has a host of information for individuals, micro businesses and sole traders, medium enterprises and large organisations. They have information across the board. So it's worth having a look, see how they can help you. This is the sort of thing that they offer. They have e-learning for staff. It takes about 20 minutes to go through, and it's free, it's there, it's a resource, you can use that. Newly launched this month is the Cyber Action Plan for sole traders and micro businesses, and that is a little, 3 to 5 minutes exercise where you can go and you can click through, and it asks you what you've got in your business currently, and then gives you a little result at the end as to what you might want to consider implementing in the future to help you be a little bit more secure. Small Business Guide is, again, it's great. They do that in PDF version, which you can download. Response and recovery. So do you have a response plan? What would happen to your business if you did have a cyber attack? Are you prepared for that? And how could you reduce the impact if it were to happen? So there's things on, there's information on there that can help you do that. Things like exercise in a box, again, for smaller organisations. It's have an exercise. How prepared are you? And run through an exercise and see how you fare. Board toolkits and useful infographics, a whole host of information that can help you, your business, and also staff. So this is the sort of thing that you'll see for those of you that haven't been to the National Cyber Security Centre. There's the e-learning for staff. And again, you can just go on here, you can download, you can share, you can print. Something for teams to do. Cyber Aware, this is part of the action plan that they've just released for smaller businesses. Okay, so you can see there on the screen with businesses with fewer than 10 employees. And this is just little steps really that you can do to help keep you better secure. For example, the 6 top tips here, and you'll see protective behaviours, because what we want to do in cybersecurity, it's kind of a culture change, and it's our behaviour changes as we move forward into the future, so that our behaviour, it becomes normality, a little bit like when you go out of your houses in the morning, house alarm on, jump in your car, seatbelt on. It's automatic thing that we do, but we're not quite there with our cybersecurity, so that's what we're trying to encourage. So you can see here, just running through the 6 tips, things like create separate passwords for your email business account. And in an ideal world, we want you to have a different password across all line accounts, because the best way to consider a password is like a master key. If you have one password across all your online accounts, then essentially it's like having a master key. It allows access to everywhere. So that's the reason we should have different passwords across online accounts. But what they're asking for, because it can be difficult, what they're asking for is a minimum, a different password for your email. Create strong passwords using 3 random words. The longer a password is, the more secure it will be. Save passwords in a browser. Again, that can help have different passwords across accounts, and it can help to manage them. It's a little bit like a password manager, really. And number 4, 2-factor authentication. So 2-factor authentication is essentially, it's added security. It's like layers of security. When we're talking about traditional crime prevention, we talk about the onion layer. So it's that layering, the more layers you have, the more secure you will be. And it's the same in cybersecurity. So 2-factor is essentially something you are, like a biometric, it could be fingerprint or facial recognition, something such as a password, or something you have, such as a code. And it's a combination of those things can just help boost your cyber strength. Updating devices. So just, straightforward things like updates can really dramatically help. If we don't update our devices timely, essentially it's just like having a hole or a vulnerability in your circle of security. And what you want to do is you want to have a secure circle of security. So updating and patching, which you'll hear in cybersecurity terms, it just means patching those vulnerabilities. So if we get updates, we need to do them straight away. Ideally have systems on automated update. And then backing up, why do we back up? Because if the worst were to happen, how would we recover? How would we put our hands on that information quickly so we could get back up and running again? If something is important to us and our businesses, we need to ensure that it's adequately and fully backed up. So that sort of thing is the advice. And when you go onto the National Cybersecurity Centre and look at this, you can get this advice in much more detail. Cyber Essentials is also something that we would encourage businesses to have a look at. Cyber Essentials is essentially, it tells people, it tells customers and other businesses that you have taken consideration to your cyber security for your business. It's a government-backed scheme, and initially they'll look at 5 controls. So you'll see there just on the left, things like secure your internet connection, so firewall. How secure is that? Securing devices and software, access control, virus and malware, malicious software, and updates. How can we do that? So look at those 5 controls and measure that, and you can get Cyber Essentials accredited. And I suppose really you've got Cyber Essentials and you've got Cyber Essentials Plus, which is up a little bit more, and then we're looking at the ISO, and in cybersecurity it's ISO 27001, and that would be something you'd expect your cybersecurity companies to have. So that's nationally. What do we offer locally? In Staffordshire, we have the Cyber Champion in the Workplace initiative. So this initiative was launched in October 2018, and it's aimed at any business any business in the county. And the idea is to have a cyber champion in the workplace. It was launched as a result of Staffordshire Online Fraud Forum, which is public, private, third sector, private sector, all coming together. How can we tackle online fraud and cybercrime in Staffordshire? That group is spearheaded by our Police and Crime Commissioner Deputy, Sue Arnold, and we did some fantastic work. And this initiative is part of that work. And it's been running now for 2.5 years, and it's received great feedback. We've had it evaluated recently, which I'll just share some results with you shortly. But basically, what is it? What's a cyber champion? What does that look like? It's embedding a cyber champion into the workplace, and that in itself can raise awareness to cybersecurity. And the cyber champion is a little bit like you might have a first aider or a fire marshal. They have a little bit of training to raise their knowledge. For example, a fire marshal, in the event of a fire alarm or a fire risk of some sort, a fire marshal would ensure that people had a rendezvous point, a safe rendezvous point, and the buildings were safe. But they're not expected to fight the fires. We have experts to do that. Cyber champion, exactly the same thing. The analogy is the same. They have a little bit of raised knowledge, but they're not expected to be experts. They just work to help users understand good cyber behaviour a little bit more to help reduce the risks of the company. So this is the sort of objectives that we give in the training. So understanding criminality in the digital world, importance of data assets, teach about social engineering and identifying common fraudulent tactics, understanding the current cyber landscape, importance of strong passwords and how to create one, and have a knowledge of low-level cyber issues and signposting to enable support from appropriate organisations. It's a 5-hour training session. We've currently been delivering it online in force, and it's been going great, and it's currently free, and it's delivered by police. Just some feedback from learners that have attended the course. So, you know, this is feedback from external businesses that we have we have trained. And you'll just see there that most people find attending the course really, really useful for themselves, their colleagues, their business, and also their families. So the training extends to the wider community. We've trained over 450 individuals across about 160 organisations and small businesses in Staffordshire. And as a result of the course, you can just see there again, you know, we're getting quite positive feedback. 99.4% people will change their cyber behaviours as a result of the training. Same figure for knowledge improvement, and all of them felt confident to be fulfilling that role of cyber champion in the workplace. So we've had some really good results. We've also had the course have granted academic validation from Staffordshire University. They've done a wider evaluation on the training, and during that survey, they had 100% of attendees said they would recommend the training. So if anybody is interested in taking up on that, it's 5 hours of your time that we would need. It's nominating appropriate individuals. It's not training the whole team, it's training an individual within a team. And the email address is at the bottom there, but I will share that with the chambers also. Resources, obviously quite a lot to take in. You know, we've got limited time today, but I would, you know, definitely recommend visiting the National Cyber Security Centre website. They've got so much resources that you can use. Also action fraud as well. Put action fraud address on there, because not only are they a reporting net mechanism, but they also have some great resources. So, you know, things like an A to Z of fraud. We have a particular problem at the moment with mandate fraud for businesses, which is mandate fraud is where you might get a request for an invoice change. And all these kind of fraud types is on there. So it can be really, really useful resource. But I've put the key ones on the screen there. And again, it might be an idea to perhaps share a couple of these slides with the attendees today. So I think that's probably about it for our time. You know, I will probably stop the screen share, and thank you everyone for coming today. I think we've had some good attendance, and I will probably ask anybody if they have any questions. So let me come out of screen share.
Probably at the top of your screen, Kate. Might be at the top if you can't find it. Sometimes if you hover over it.
Don't you just love IT?
Or just click the share screen at the bottom.
Is it still shared?
Yes.
Is it? Oh, there we go. Stop share. Why won't it stop sharing?
I tell you what, I'll
do it.
I should be able to do it for you. Bear with me.
There we go. Yeah, when I go to the top of the screen, it's not.
Bear with me. I'm just going to take it off just for a second.
Oh, there we go.
There we go, everyone. Sorry about that. All done.
Brilliant. Thank you for that.
No problem. Has anybody got any? Oh, sorry. Has anybody got any questions for Kate? I know that a lot of you've got your videos off currently at the moment. So if you just want to either raise your digital hand or if there's any questions at all. Everybody's quiet. I assume
everybody is quiet.
Kate. That can't be.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know whether. Yeah, that's a good thing. I don't know.
Fantastic. Oh, Darren's got a question. Darren, hi. How are you?
Hi there. Hi, Kate. I just want to say thanks very much for the presentation. Sitting in that's nice to hear. We have a lot to do nationally in digital forensics, so it was great, in particular, to hear you talking about the caller line identity spoofing, the text message spoofing, because we're certainly seeing that having a rise nationally at this time. And on that end, I was wondering what SAS Police are doing sort of locally in the community to educate the more sort of vulnerable groups that are often vulnerable to that type of fraud. And the second sort of point was just to on the basis that rarely sort of police can't act on suspicion alone. They need some sort of evidence, things on that particular side. And there I was wondering if you had any advice to businesses about that evidence sort of gathering process, particularly because you've spoke today about the cyber threat, which often comes from the outside of the unknown. But I was just wondering if you had any thoughts about the insider threat that can also be within an organisation, and how businesses should consider tackling that. So it was those two, the vulnerable groups for the caller line.
Yeah, the vulnerable groups. No, thank you for that, Darren. The vulnerable groups, you're absolutely right. It's myself, certainly, as part of my role as well. It's protecting businesses, the public, and also staff. So there's sort of three key areas for me. And it's getting out there, awareness and education, getting out to community groups, talking to people. It's not been as easy since this last March. I mean, certainly before that, if anybody had any community group that wanted me to come and speak at, almost certainly help people with that. We work quite closely with banking colleagues as well, who do the Friends Against Scams presentation, and which is trading standards, and sometimes dual present, just to try and target as many as we can. I mean, to sort of, I suppose, put it into some context in policing, there's myself is the protect officer for the force. We've got sort of 3,800 employees and police officers and staff, but there's just really myself that does cybercrime and fraud prevention. So I am sort of it for resources in Staffordshire Police, and it's just, I suppose, trying to get my messaging out via as many platforms as I can. As a result of the cyber champion training, actually, we produce top tips every month. But when coronavirus happened, in response to that last year, I've got quite a lot of people on that mailing list now. So every month the current threats that we see, which extend to the community. So these text messages, the HMRC calls, and all those things that the wider community sees, you know, they go out to as many people that want to be on my mailing list as possible. You know, so we've got community groups on there and things like that. And the cyber champions share them with their networks. So there's quite a big, you know, we've got 460 champions, but, you know, I can have one champion where they'll send the top tips out to hundreds, you know. So the network is growing, really, because I suppose that's the continued support. And it is difficult, isn't it? It's difficult to get this messaging out. You know, we can't just assume that social media is the best platform, because people don't have social media. You know, I mean, just taking my dad, for example, he's 87, he doesn't even have a computer, but he's had these calls from Amazon. You know, he can be affected by cybercrime because he's got a phone. So, you know, you're absolutely right. With regard to investigative opportunities, you know, internally and externally, we've enforced, now we have cybercrime team of investors. There's a couple of there's a DS and a DC that are sort of dedicated to looking at networks and systems if we have the opportunity, but that always has to come from the business as well, you know, to sort of say, oh, we think we've got a problem, what can the police support us with? So we've got the investigators in force now, and we've had them for the last, or March 2019 forces upped their cyber capability. Prior to that, it was on the region, so the West Midlands Regional Organised Crime Unit. So if we feel that we've got a bigger threat, we can call in on the region as well. So, and then the way the cyber works in law enforcement now, it's that force regional national link. You know, so we've got a few things that we can do to support, if that hopefully answers that question for you.
Yes, it does. Yeah, thank you for that. Say, yeah, it's good to hear you promoting that one, and again, especially the part about using the different phone, because yeah, we see that again, the play down the Dale tone, and it's yeah, sadly, yeah, we're always the catch up thing with those criminals, and they can be so sophisticated against the vulnerable, who, you know, can sometimes be so gullible. So yeah, thank you very much for answering that.
No, you're welcome. And just on the back of that, just to, you know, when I say we can all be affected, when it comes to fraudulent phone calls and things like that, a lot of the time that a phone number will be spoofed. And for those of you that don't know, I mean, Darren, you'll know this, spoofing means fake. Our own force number was spoofed in December and also February, just, you know, this last February. So we were getting people in Staffordshire, and one quite keen-eyed gentleman thought, well, I'm going to Google this number because I think it's a scam. He Googled the number, and guess what? It came back Staffordshire Police. So, you know, it can happen to all of us, you know. So it's, yeah, it's just awareness and education is key. Emily, I think we've got questions.
Yeah, it was just off the back of what you were saying, actually, in terms of the training and getting out to people. I have an accountancy business, and so I came on to this for my own business and also helping my clients. But I also am a trustee of the Local Citizens Advice Bureau, and there's obviously there's quite a few in Staffordshire. I didn't know whether it was something that you were already doing with them, or would you want an opportunity to be able to get in front of the advisors and there to be able to spread this further?
Yeah, definitely, Emily. I mean, you know, for anybody that wants to link in with me post today, absolutely, of course, I'm more than happy for you to have my my work email address, no problem. You know, it's because things like that, with sharing our top tips, this monthly tips that we send, an example of that would be one of our cyber champions had the top tips, put it on their parish council website. As a result of that, we had a victim come forward from Lincoln concerning a romance fraud, because the top tips that I send out now will be not, you know, it'll be all sorts of cybercrime and fraud, you know, and strangely enough, romance fraud is in one of our top 5 frauds. It's really problematic, and it's a sad one. People don't think they're being affected by it, but the fact that messaging had reached beyond our county was great. But and there was a suspect named from locally as well. So it's it is kind of just all this working together and sharing this awareness so people understand that these things can and do happen, I think.
Okay,
So yes,
thank
Emily.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Brilliant.
Any other questions for Kate while she's here? Like I said, you can just shout out if you want. There's quite enough of us on the call, or if you want to raise your digital hand, that'd be fantastic.
No, brilliant.
Not, I think we're done. Oh, Emily, have you still got your hand up? Do you want to raise it? Was that from before? Don't worry about it. I'll just lower it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
lowered your hand, Emily. Not a problem. Fantastic, everybody.
I was going to say it's not so much a question, but I was going to point something out that that I've seen happening quite frequently recently. It's a thing that's growing, and that's the attacks as a service is growing exponentially at the moment, where people are able to go on to like things like the dark web and everything and pay for a piece of software. And this particular one's like it's getting a little bit nerve-wracking at how often it's been done, where the criminal in mind will pay to get this bit of software, and this bit of software will actually help you generate these phishing emails for you. And not only that, but it will also generate a fake website for them. So they don't need any technical skill whatsoever. They don't need to know how to code or anything. They literally just pay £5, get this bit of software. All they need to know then is who they want to attack. So they just need an email address. Wow. So I could be like, Laura Hodgkiss. I'm going to email Laura Hodgkiss. I think Laura uses Instagram. So I'm going to tell it that I want an Instagram account, give her her email address, and what it'll do is it'll automatically generate an email that looks like it's from Instagram to say something like, you need to verify your ID. And that puts that thing aside. What it also does is it takes a snapshot of the current Instagram page as it is in its form. So when someone then clicks on the email, so Laura will click on the email and go, oh, I need to find out what this is about, click the link, it'll then take to a page and it looks exactly like Instagram, like it was 15 minutes ago. She'll input a username and password, and this is the one that you'll have seen something like this before. You'll input the username and password, and it'll go, sorry, the information was incorrect, like when you press enter or you press the select key. What it does then is it automatically takes you to the official Instagram page, and you'll continue to log in thinking, oh, I must have mistyped. You didn't mistype. You were on a different web page, and that person's got your details. So be very mindful of that. If you're like, that's odd because I know my password, that's perfectly right, and it's told you it's incorrect and you assume you mistyped, it might be worth like going to the official page properly and changing your password.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and thank you for that. And it's all in the detail. It's all, people need to be really, really keen-eyed on the URL and make sure that they are on the right web page. And you're absolutely right in what you're saying. Criminals don't really have to be that techie now to orchestrate these attacks. They can just go on the dark web and, sort of buy them, essentially. It's like a marketplace for criminals. So it has to be about how we can protect ourselves. And that is awareness and education. So, if anybody wants a little bit more information about the training, we do go into a lot of this kind of subject matter on that. Please do let me know. So, but no, thank you for that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. That was really useful, actually. Thank you. Is it Ben?
Yeah. That's brilliant, Ben. Thank you.
Fantastic. Just want to say a big thanks to Kate and her presentation today. I'm sure, Kate, are you happy for the slides to be shared? Should anybody want a copy of them?
Should anybody? Yeah, that's fine. Do I need to send them to you, Laura?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So everybody else, thank you so much for coming. Don't forget that we do run webinars pretty much every day at the Chamber, so you can find all of our webinars on the official Staffordshirechambers.co.uk website. Just a couple that are coming up that you might be interested in. We have our Brexit domino effect webinar that's happening tomorrow morning at 8:30 for all of the other Brexit things that happen. So, for example, more expensive wine that everybody's more important about than the actual Brexit itself. We also have Simply Networking that happens every Friday morning at 10 p.m. and it's 10 p.m., 10 a.m. So if you are interested in just having a good old chinwag about your business and having a bit more than that 2 minutes that you usually get on the speed networking, and please join me for that every Friday at 10 a.m. And don't forget, we're also holding our West Midlands Expo that's happening as we're speaking now. So and that's happening all week. And Staffordshire Chamber of Commerce day is on Friday, so you can find a load of seminars and workshops from some of our amazing members on the website there. But again, you can get all the links for that on the Staffordshire Chamber of Commerce website. If you can't, or you're having any issues, please don't hesitate to contact me. I'm Laura Hodgkiss, and our email addresses are literally, as they say, laura.hodgkiss@staffordshireChambers.co.uk, or my lovely second in command underneath me at the moment is Lucy Adams, who you can just see on the screen. I'll wave a second, Lucy, and hers is lucy.adams@staffordshirechamber.co.uk. Brilliant, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll probably send you a quick email just to get some feedback on this event, but it's been an absolute pleasure this afternoon, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend for those that I don't see beforehand. So thank you very much. Bye, everyone.